It's 10 p.m. in Banjul. This is GRTS News, broadcasting for viewers in the Gambia and around the world. Coming up in the headlines, the HIP President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, presides over the 57th anniversary of nationhood from British colonial rule. As Gambia clocks 57, GRTS examines plans harnessing potentials in the country's informal sector. Plus, the Emir of Kano State in Nigeria visits the Gambia for a 3-day official visit. Official mission courtesy of the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency, GIPA. Away from home, the EU is aiming to convince the 40 African leaders in Brussels that Europe is their most reliable partner by fleshing out an investment initiative that can mobilize 150 billion euros of public and private funds over the next 7 years. Well, viewers, these and much more coming ahead in the news, and I am Marianne Ajayi. Many thanks for joining us. Bulletin with nationhood because the Gambia observed 57th independence anniversary with a colorful ceremony at the McCarthy Square in Banjul. The day-long commemorated 57 years ago when the Union Jack was lowered, marking the end of more than a century and a half of British colonial rule. In his independence address, the President of the Republic and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, His Excellency Adama Barrow, called on Gambians to strive for the attainment of full economic independence. Mamadou Jallo now reports.
A day of pomp and celebration at the McCarthy Square in Banjul, marking 57 years since the Gambia attained independence from British colonial rule. The parade of the Armed and Security Services was one of the main highlights of this year's celebrations, comprising the Gambia National Army, the Republican National Guard, the Gambia Navy, the Gambia Police Force, the Police Intervention Unit, the Gambia Immigration Department, the Gambia Prison Services, the Gambia Fire and Rescue Services, and the Gambia Revenue Authority. For the hundreds of Gambians from different walks of life and diverse political persuasions attending this low-key event, it was the occasion to celebrate the attainment of freedom and reflect on the struggle of the founding fathers and the successive generations that have brought this country this far. The Gambia gained independence at a critical time when many people doubted its viability. And it is occasions like this that the country and its leadership renew its commitment and resolve to build a stable, prosperous nation that would be the pride of all citizens. In his Independence Day address, the President, His Excellency Adama Barrow, challenged all Gambians to strive to attain what he called economic independence, arguing that the country must end its dependence on imports to survive.
To free ourselves from economic dependence, among other strategies, we must invest more freely in the productive sectors, produce as much of what we consume as we need, and eat more homemade products. By the same token, we need to expand and patronize local businesses while developing, encouraging, and tapping local talents. A lot of potential to increase national income generation lies in organizing our communities to set up joint businesses, engage in more productive ventures, and make the most of our natural resources.
The president also reached out to his political opponents, pledging to maintain an open-door policy and embrace political plurality to accommodate divergent views, suggestions, and opinions that will lead to the building of a truly democratic society.
Democracy will continue to be our political system, but it does not mean democracy merely characterized by elections. I believe in democracy as a political system for advancement, development, self-determination, and social cohesion. For me, democracy offers us a system to organize the people for peace, stability, freedom, self-reliance, and respect for rights and the rule of law.
As has been the norm since that fateful day in 1965, school children also took part in the celebrations, marching past the president.
We have the senior secondary schools, St. Augustine's.
The Gambian leader renewed his government's commitment to the building of a robust and responsive education sector that will drive the Gambia's socio-economic and political development. The president then left the McCarthy Square, bringing the official celebrations to a close. But Gambians will now reflect on his message in the hope that the current generation of citizens will continue on the task of building a free and prosperous nation. Mamadou Jallo, GRTS News.
Meanwhile, on the sidelines of festivities marking the country's 57th year of existence from British rule, GRTS's Mama J engaged some dignitaries gracing the national event at the country's island capital. Let's take a listen.
Hundreds of Gambians or non-Gambians alike, including foreign and local dignitaries, security services and school children gathered at the McCarthy Square in Banjul to mark the country's 57th independence anniversary. The day is a stock-taking moment in which Gambians reflect on their collective performances as a nation. The occasion also served as an opportunity to recall when the control of power and governance were handed over to the leaders of the country, with Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara becoming the first president of the Gambia in 1965. The struggle for independence was a tiresome journey, thus witnessing the sacrifices of many freedom fighters such as Edward Francis Small, Sir John Mahoney, and I am Gaba Jahumba, among a host of other freedom fighters who laid their lives in the process. On the sidelines of the historic event, GRTS spoke to some people, including foreign diplomats, about the importance of the day. The British High Commissioner to the Gambia looks forward to the future as Gambians celebrate independence with pride. The Deputy Chief of Mission at the American Embassy hailed relations between Banjul and Washington, while the representative of the Spanish Embassy in the Gambia looks forward to strengthening bilateral ties between Banjul and Madrid. For the former Vice President Fatoumata Jallow Tambajang, independence is a moment to reflect on the achievements, challenges, and way forward as a country. She paid tribute to former President late Sir Dawda Kairaba Jawara and all those who struggled for the Gambia's independence. For the Ministers of Defense and Fisheries, Sheikh Ahmad Faye and James Gomez respectively, independence remind them a dawn of a new beginning as they pay growing tribute to those freedom fighters who fought for this day. They called on Gambians, especially the youth, to work together for national development. The Minister of Tourism and Culture, Hamad Ba, emphasized the need to grow what we eat and eat what we grow by making best use of the River Gambia. Honorable Ba was concerned about how the country relies heavily on imported goods of food commodities such as rice, onion, among other foodstuffs, and encouraged Gambians and youths in particular to venture into the agriculture sector, adding that government is committed to improving the vital sector. For the President of the Republic, His Excellency Adama Barrow, the solution depends on how practical we are and how far we are as a country by minimizing import and maximizing export. Hence the need to transform the population into a more productive resource to free ourselves from economic dependency and invest in the productive sector.
We must invest more freely in the productive sectors, produce as much of what we consume as we need, and eat more homemade products. By the same token, we need to expand and patronize local businesses while developing, encouraging, and tapping local talents.
The Minister of Women and Children Affairs, Fatu Kinte, harped on the political representative of women in the upcoming parliamentary elections, as they form about 52% of the country's population. Mama J, GRTS.
The Emir of Kano State in Nigeria, Alhaji Aminu Ado Abdullahi Barriero, is in the country for a 3-day official visit, courtesy of the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency. The Muslim elders and the Nigerian High Commission in the Gambia during his stay in the Gambia. Amir Barriero is expected to discuss trade and investment promotion in the areas of agriculture, manufacturing, and oil processing. Now on to some development matters, as Gambia's informal sector is shifting to meet the global economic and production processes with potentials to create job opportunities for Gambians. Aminata E. Sanyang explains the sector and how it is enhancing socio-economic growth.
A dynamic and vast sector, transforming job opportunities in the Gambia. The informal sector is witnessing improved productivity, raising incomes for people engaged in different ventures and skilled undertakings. With a significant number of Gambians earning a living outside the formal sector, the area has become an effective zone, generating more inclusive growth. The metropolis is a teeming industry of informal ventures, from skilled works to business such as carpentry workshops, whose advent is shaping decent livelihoods for many young Gambians. Working daily and creating employment for youth at his workshop, Sheikh Tijan Sekka is one of many proprietors employing scores of people at his carpentry workshop. Mr. Sekka relies on youth skills to advance his company, which is both a business and training center offering apprenticeship to young people learning the trade. Here, the woodwork expert unveils the ordeals involved in carpentry work, amid misconceptions discouraging many youngsters away from this venture.
Some of them will finish their grade 12 exams or grade 9. They will be loitering in the streets for 5 years without any knowledge or any professional to do. Having been supposed that 5 years you spend in the streets, you spend those 5 years in a carpentry workshop, welding or tailoring workshop, you will, in the next 2-3 years, you will become self-dependent. And that would help the government in one way or the other. One, to remove the burden for government. The other way, to contribute in paying taxes to government. So we see that there is a need for government to come into our aid, to help us motivate the boys. If the boys that are already in the trade are suffering, could not manage themselves, how will you expect others to venture into it? That's a big question.
To boost the venture's gains, Sheikh Tijan introduced modern machines in his work. The equipment is helping greatly ease the burden of producing quality works. According to statistics, the informal sector in West Africa accounts for approximately 50% of national output, over 80% of employment, and 90% of new jobs. In the Gambia, an expanding informal sector is curtailing the unemployment rate in the Gambia, with many Gambian youth weighing their choices to choose between white-collar jobs and informal sector, which offers more employment opportunities for young people.
As a youth, because them na school.
Getting occupied in an informal job is way better than doing nothing. At least we are earning decently from this work.
With an overwhelming demand of furniture, business is stable despite the challenges. Many are also into construction, a fast-changing sector, ushering in contracts for constructors. Limited highways, low-level road engineering, and a growing number of cars on the Gambia's roads is also raising the bar for mechanics who occupy a significant spot in the informal sector.
Clement, come back. Okay, I want to see this thing.
Bangura and his colleagues are running this garage in Serekunda. The shop continually receives an influx of vehicles in dire need of fixing. According to Bangura, car mechanical works come with significant challenges, but it's the source of their living.
We pay our tax normally, and we understand, pay our KMC, pay everything, you understand. Although as we not receive much, but anyway, alhamdulillah, you get what you want, you understand. That's the only thing I hear. You understand, thank God for that.
Despite the informal sector representing a major part of West African economies, it is typically stigmatized. Critics say the informal sector is unmanageable and also extremely troublesome. In the diversified sector of haberdashery, tailors fill the lineup with an influx of orders streaming almost daily. This area creates massive job opportunities for many. The informal economy is a global phenomenon of growth and development, but there is a great variation within and across the countries. In the Gambia, it is ushering transformative changes, shaping new opportunities for socio-economic development.
Gradually enhancing economic growth through a sustainable business undertaking. Men and women in these ventures surmount challenges and disregard stereotype to earn a decent living from what could be a technical venture. Aminata Isanyang, GRTS.
Livestock in the Gambia is mainly produced on the extensive system with little care coupled with seasonal fluctuation of animal feed. Well, as we hear in this report by Ibrahim Abba, the community of Changai Toro is taking a bold step in preserving the environment for sustainable feeding of their animals.
Changai Toro is predominantly a nomadic community with crop production as an alternative during the rainy season. Transhumance, which is now practiced by majority of livestock producers in the Gambia, is not widely adopted by the villagers. This explains why farmers are doing everything they can to protect and preserve the environment for animals to continuously graze all available livestock feed. Suleiman Wan, who spoke on behalf of livestock producers of Changai Toro, explained why they had to do their utmost in conserving the environment to continue producing livestock.
These livestock are very important. They contribute in the socio-economic growth of the country. They help in soil fertility.
Water remains crucial in rearing livestock, but its inadequacy, Mr. Wan went further, is threatening the existence of the remaining stock with wells as deep as 55 meters used to draw water for animals.
Water is the main concern of this community. The deepness of our well is 55 meters. And almost in this community, almost every compound have a flock of cattle, about 25 or 50 cattle. Others have more than that. So we don't have any other source of water apart from this well.
Meanwhile, it is the fervent belief by many in this farming community that when water is in abundant supply, the shortage of animals ready for local markets will greatly be reduced. Well, this community of Changai Toro village in Samet district of the Central River Region North has a vast area of land that is suitable for agricultural production and also the production of livestock. But the existence of livestock here is threatened by the insufficient amount of water that is recorded year by year. And the community is calling on the government and other philanthropists so that they are able to come up with plans to help them out remedy the situation of water shortages for their animals, and then they continue producing livestock as far as their lives and livelihoods are concerned. For GRTS News, this is Ibrahim Bah reporting.
Now to environmental matters, because the National Environment Agency is reviewing the Plastic Ban Order 2015, which looks at manufacturing, business and consumers. dealing with plastic. Now, speaking to GRTS's NEA program manager, Mohammed Jalom Jabang, emphasized that the agency introduced sensitization on plastic through video broadcast on media, informing people about the dangers of plastic and the ban order. Here's more in this excerpt.
Developed, a strategy, and we've also developed short videos on plastic bag, enforcement, and also on anti-littering, regulations. Those videos, they are shown on GRTS and UTV for almost 6 months, some time back. And this year too, the availability of funds, we're going to also have around 6 months, sensitization to those, short videos. We also are going to, do vigorous sensitizations, outreaches, very soon that will take off. And we also want to review the ban order, because the fines in the ban order are very, very, very low. You can pay the fine and start, your operations again, because now the business is very, very, very lucrative. The ban looks at three different.
And that was NEA's program manager, Mohammed Jalom Jabang, talking to GRTS's Usman Mane on devastating impacts of plastic bags. Now moving on, the Imam Ratib of Brikama, Alhaji Sankung Ture, has challenged Muslims to practice Islam according to the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. Alhaji Sankung Ture made these remarks whilst presiding over the inauguration of a mosque called Al Salam Charitable Social Center in Brikama, Jalangba, in the West Coast region. Now, the mosque, equipped with a borehole, toilets, and ablution facilities, was funded by Africa Relief and Community Development Gambia Office. Ibrahim Jallo has more on that report.
While inaugurating the mosque in Brikama Jalamba, the Imam Ratib of Brikama Alhaji Sankun Ture commended Africa Relief Community Development Gambia Office for propagating Islam through the construction of a mosque as fundamental worshipping and educational center for Muslims in the area. Imam Ture enjoined beneficiaries to maintain the judicious use of the facility, while further challenging Muslims to serve as ambassadors of Islam by upholding higher standard of discipline.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not guide us to this community to plant the seeds of goodness. And the seeds of goodness, I see it in the brothers and sisters' faces in this community. We build the masjid, when we go, we move on. And this masjid will stay for you. You have to benefit from it. Learn Quran. Learn how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Abdullah Lofty, Ahmed Abdul Hadi, and Muhammad Salama of Africa Relief Community Development Gambia Office said aside from the inaugurated mosque, borehole and toilet facility, their organization will also build a Quranic memorization center on the ground, where children, women and youth will learn the noble Quran and other social and cultural values, according to the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
Inshallah, soon we're going to put a school there. The school is the purpose of that school to teach our kids how to become. The first word came from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu. It's Iqra, means read. So without reading, without education, we're worth nothing. We will stay behind. Our advancement, our movement to the future is through reading and learning.
Other community members, including Karamo Mane, Alkalo and Imam of Jalamban village, Lamin Mono Jata and Alaji So, respectively, hailed the donors for building a mosque in the area, aimed at spreading the teachings and commands of Allah. The inauguration ceremony was attended by scores of Muslims across the West Coast region and representatives from the Gambia Supreme Islamic Council. Ibrahima Diallo, GRTS News.
Now to safety and security now. More than a dozen officers from the Gambia Fire and Rescue Services on Friday were certified by the Turkish Coordination and Cooperation Agency TICA through its embassy in the Gambia after weeks of training in practical basic firefighting skills. The ceremony, attended by the Turkish ambassador and senior fire rescue officials, is aimed at enhancing the capacity of the officers in rescue and emergency response. The project was initiated by TICA after the establishment of its office in Banjul in 2018. Turkish ambassador to the Gambia reassured Turkish readiness and commitment to enhance the capacity of the Gambia Fire and Rescue Services in the areas of disaster and emergency response. Here's more in this report by Baba Silla.
To further develop our brotherly relations in every possible field. Besides mutual visits and agreements, bilateral agreements, we are doing this through technical assistance, capacity building, skill building programs.
After weeks of intensive training aimed at boosting their capacity, these firefighters finally received certificate in basic firefighting skill provided by expert trainers from Turkey. The project is initiated by TICA, a Turkish development agency, with its partners in a bid to enhance the knowledge of fire and rescue service personnel in the areas of disaster and emergency response. The coordinator of TICA office in Banjul gave a brief background of the project.
The objective is to enhance the capacity of the Gambia Fire and Rescue Service in the area of emergency and disaster response. As TICA Banjul office, we remain always committed to provide more assistance to the Gambia. Every member plays an important part in protecting public safety, and some demonstrate great bravery and self-sacrifice to protect local communities from danger.
Recollecting the long bilateral cooperation between the two countries, Turkish Ambassador Tolga Bemak reassured his office continued support to the Gambia security sector, particularly in the areas of disaster and emergency response.
As a genuine friend of the Gambia, we are doing our best to further develop our brotherly relations in every possible field. Besides mutual visits and agreements, bilateral agreements, we are doing this through technical assistance, capacity building, skill building programs, and training activities in many areas. This time, TICA and Konya Metropolitan Municipality have come up with a very important project, which is directly related with saving human lives. As you know, training of firefighters is very important in the sense that when a major fire, a serious incident or accident or any other emergency occurs, firefighters, police and paramedics are the ones who rush to the field to deal with the situation. When members of the public are at risk and rescue is the real priority, time is very unforgiving since it passes very quickly. In this regard, dealing with the situation promptly in a professional manner is very crucial. In dealing with all these real-life emergencies, realistic training sessions will always prove to be of critical value. In this regard, I would like to express my sincere thanks to the Konya Metropolitan Municipality Fire Brigade team for sharing their experiences and know-how with our Gambian friends. And I am very happy to learn that this training will not stop here and will further continue in Konya as well. And I know that today is the last day of your one-week training program, and I hope it will be beneficial to all of you during your future professional life.
Turkey continues to support the Gambia in various sectors of development, ranging from education, agriculture, and security, among a list of interventions, strengthening development cooperation between the two countries. Bawa Sila, GRTS.
We'll be back with news from beyond our borders. Do stay with us. Welcome back. Now, the President of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, reiterated the need for the African continent to strengthen its bond with the European Union for better economic progress. He made these remarks at the ongoing AU-EU summit in Brussels on Thursday, where Africa's relations with other respective regions across the world came under the limelight. More in this report.
Africa's relations with other respective regions across the world came under limelight in the ongoing AU-EU summit in Brussels on Thursday. The President of the African Union Commission, Musa Faki Mahamat, reiterated on the need for the African continent to strengthen its bond with the European Union for a better economic progress. The summit has brought together close to 40 leaders from different African countries as EU is seeking to solidify its economic partners around the world amidst Russia and China's influence in Africa. Africa is developing diversities of partnerships that do not have the same history or the same scope as our partnership with Europe. These new partnerships are no less relevant and beneficial to Africa, and from this point of view, are worthy of respect and consideration. The EU is aiming to convince the 40 African leaders in Brussels that Europe is their most reliable partner by fleshing out an investment initiative that aims to mobilize over $170 billion of public and private funds over the next 7 years. On his arrival at the Brussels summit on Thursday, Senegalese President Macky Sall said there were still differences over the financing of fossil fuels, a sensitive issue as to how far the EU can go in financing such projects. According to observers, the African Union wants this to be taken into account in the final declaration to be issued on Friday.
Now, the United States and Western media are claiming a war could break out at any minute between Russia and Ukraine, despite complaints from the Ukrainian government that those statements are creating problems in the country. History professor Anton Fedayashin explains in this CGTN report.
I think this is rhetoric on the part of the United States, and we're seeing how certain European countries and the leadership of Ukraine are becoming increasingly critical of U.S. claims, but that doesn't seem to deter Washington. Unfortunately, it's having a devastating effect on the Ukrainian economy. I read an article on the Ukrainian press today in which quoted David Rahamian, who was the head of the Sluha Naroda, the servant of the people, Zemensky's party in the Rada, the Ukrainian parliament, complaining about the fact that the war hysteria is costing Ukraine $2 to $3 billion a month. Now, I'm not sure about those figures, but the fact that Ukrainian state obligations are down, that the real estate markets are down, that investments are fleeing the country, certainly does not help the Ukrainian economy, which unfortunately was already in very, very, very poor condition. It's worth reminding the viewers that Ukraine is the poorest country in Europe right now, unfortunately, this with a remarkably talented and highly educated population. So the hysteria itself is devastating Ukraine economically, and so it's unclear to me why the United States is so hell-bent on this aspect of the Ukrainian story instead of engaging in more forward diplomacy with the Russians and the Ukrainians. Well, I think
we'll take our second break now. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, before we end this newscast, a recap of our top stories. His Excellency Adama Barrow has presided over the 57th anniversary of nationhood from British colonial rule. As Gambia clocks 57, GRTS examined plans harnessing potentials in the country's informal sector. Plus, the Emir of Kano State in Nigeria is visiting the Gambia for a 3-day official mission courtesy of the Gambia Investment and Export Promotion Agency, GAIPA. Away from home, the EU is aiming to convince the 40 African leaders in Brussels that Europe is their most reliable partner by fleshing out an investment initiative that can mobilize 150 billion euros of public and private funds over the next 7 years. Well, that's all in this edition of the News at 10. Stay tuned for more interesting programs on GRTS. Until then, thank you for the pleasure of your company and do stay safe.
Arba anin jinio ensign ube bakono sojarol leti saja salla wolle president Bulletin